Elea. Introduction. Classical antiquity played host to a great intellectual struggle. Philosophers, possessed by the desire to know, engaged in free inquiry and developed an astounding array of positions. They formed schools and engaged each other in philosophical debates. That same spirit grips our generation. We gather online to develop our beliefs and to clash like rams. Antiquity is born again, beautiful and new. Elea is a timeless opportunity to visit a distant community of philosophers who live in and around a large temple. You might open the book, explore the temple grounds, engage in philosophical discussions, and then retire to the guest house. In this book you have your own little philosophical retreat, a place where you can stretch your legs and consider your position on metaphysics and morality. The story begins with your arrival at the temple, which is located in a remote valley. The community in and around the temple is inspired by ancient Hellenic and Chinese works. Their philosophy is particularly influenced by Eleatic fragments and certain Taoist texts. The adherents of the temple seek to establish a broad metaphysical framework that will provide context for any issue one might consider, and to secure a basis for ethical judgments. The introduction continues on for a couple of pages. The listener need only know that this book features a branching narrative. There are over 70 chapters, and at the end of each chapter, the reader must make a decision. In this recording, we will cover 16 chapters. Let us begin. The arrival. You hike along a forested path, occasionally catching sight of your destination through the towering trees and dense foliage. It was an easy decision to make this journey. After listening to one too many theological debates, you desired something more certain than talk of gods and their plans for humanity. You set out after encountering a forum post that revealed a greater context to reality, one that stretched beyond the gods and swallowed them whole. Or was it the desire for independence and a new social order that led you here? The role of a lawgiver always appealed to you, but it never appeared in your job searches. Instead, you caught glimpses of it when reading wondrous science fiction novels and ancient accounts of new colonies and kingdoms. Soon enough, you were signing up to online forums, eagerly discussing planned communities and space missions. You eventually spotted a post about a temple located in a remote valley. Here was a chance to unshackle yourself from the wayward institutions and authorities of the present. Could this place enable you to live life in accordance with your true nature? Is it here that you will finally engage in some project that gives you a sense of fulfillment? Whatever the motivation, it has succeeded in drawing you here. Refreshed by the walk and full of hope, you stand before the Eleatic temple. The entrance is marked by large double doors made of wood, set into a red wall topped by dark ceramic tiles. In front of the doorway stands a wooden table with a stack of pamphlets. Two individuals sit there, eyeing you. They are dressed in comfortable robes, sipping from mugs of tea. As you move closer, the two people stand and greet you. Welcome to our temple. This site is dedicated to our philosophical project, which is chiefly inspired by the Eleatic sages and the great minds of philosophical Taoism. We seek the broadest possible understanding of what is, and explore the constitution of all things. For newcomers like yourself, we offer a printed welcome guide. It will introduce you to our project, provide you with a map of the temple and the surrounding valley, and hopefully eliminate confusion and make your visit more enjoyable. Please take a copy and read over it before you enter. The temple consists of several buildings and extensive grounds. This entrance leads directly to the Grand Hall, which connects to a series of exhibits and our public canteen. Today, we're serving lamb soup. We highly recommend stopping by for a bowl. The price of the meal is conversation. A room will also be prepared for you at our guest house. Most of our guests like to stay here for a while and take part in our activities. During your visit, please let others know your thoughts. Those who maintain this temple are happy to talk with you. Conversation has its own benefits, distinct from impersonal words written for a broad audience. Perhaps you might even develop your own contributions to our school of thought. As with anything in the human realm, there are some rules. Please dress in a conservative manner, and be sure to cover any exposed tattoos and remove excess piercings. Please refrain from drinking alcohol or consuming other intoxicants, except for when you are visiting the canteen or the grove. We would also prefer that you drink tea instead of bean water. Please try to speak only Chinese and English, and please avoid spelling words in an unpleasant fashion. When referencing historical examples, do your best to focus on Hellenic and Chinese antiquity. Finally, please understand that we reject the confused standards of the current dissolute era. After listening to the speech, you take a copy of the welcome guide. It is a folded pamphlet with a map printed on the back. You place it in your inventory, where you may review it at will. Option 1. Inquire about the rules. Option 2. Inquire about the welcome guide. Option 3. Thank them and proceed into the temple. We will inquire about the rules. Initial Enquiries 1. After patiently listening, you ask about the need for such rules. What is wrong with wandering around naked, your body covered in tattoos or pierced with holes? Why should you drink tea instead of coffee? Why only reference Hellenic and Chinese antiquity? The two men listened to your questions quietly, one of them with a stern expression, the other with a warm smile. When you are finished, the one man's smile breaks into a laugh. He places his mug down and raises both hands in mock surrender, before responding. Like any other society, we have rules that prohibit dangerous and disruptive behavior. We would also like to create a sense of familiarity and a shared identity. We feel this is conducive to the harmony and success of our society. Hence, we have created a few rules that one might consider a matter of taste. We could formulate some explanation for why tea is the superior beverage, or cite some injunction against the consumption of beans, but that's not the point. We were raised to prefer tea and would like to encourage its consumption, and we hope that people will be brought together by their shared appreciation for it. The world will reflect our will, and our members will share common ground, not to mention the health benefits inherent to tea consumption, of which you would be a fool to ignore. Most of the rules also uphold classical standards and give people an opportunity to display their membership in our society. In antiquity, what sort of man willingly scarred his body with tattoos or excessive piercings? Within the traditions we appreciate, that sort of thing was only fit for savages, slaves, and criminals. It is said that our bodies, to every hair and bit of skin, are received by us from our parents, and we must not presume to injure or wound them. This is the beginning of filial piety. The man pauses as he picks his mug up and takes a sip. He then adopts a somewhat more serious tone, continuing, "If you absolutely insist on drinking coffee and engaging in other unwise behavior, I suppose you can still go in. Even I have been known to act unusually at times. There's no shortage of philosophers who want to buck the trend. Most of us can appreciate that outsiders have different ideas. Some of our own members like to gather in the grove and push social boundaries. Perhaps they'll give you a favorable reception if you catch them at the right time. The man then breaks out with another wide smile, before directing your attention to the entrance gate. As you consider your options, the two men sit quietly, watching you. Option 1. Inquire about the welcome guide. Option 2. Enter the temple doors. Before we follow one of those options, let's go to the inventory and read the welcome guide. Inventory. The items you have gathered may be viewed on the following pages. What follows is a short list of documents that you can find while reading the book. We're going to go to the welcome guide, starting with the cover. Welcome guide. You examine the outside of the pamphlet. It has an attractive illustration on the front cover, consisting of people in various outfits engaged in conversation. Flipping it over, you see something of practical use, a map of the temple grounds. What follows is a table of contents. Now turning to the interior of the pamphlet. Welcome to the Eleatic Temple. Situated in a remote valley, our philosophical community is centered around a large complex that we call the Eleatic Temple. Inside the main structure you will find a public canteen, meeting hall, and various exhibition rooms and offices. There is also a nearby guest house and many smaller cabins. Guests and tour groups are welcome to stay here during their visit. Our community is also responsible for the rest of the valley. You may find extensive hiking trails, a collection of statues and other artwork, shrines, and the grove. We invite you to explore the natural beauty and engage with the people you encounter during your stay. Our community was founded many generations ago by those who rejected the prevailing institutions and beliefs of their day. Their common views, hobbies, and aspirations brought them together, and after necessary preparations they set out for this valley. The land was not uninhabited, but the locals were soon convinced to accept the leadership and philosophical beliefs of the new order. We graciously allowed these people to continue living in the lands around our temple. They follow our community in all matters of broad importance, but are otherwise left to their own devices. Today, they form an important part of the valley's culture, and provide our community with many useful products and services. Since the founding of this site, we have kept it open to outsiders and have occasionally introduced promising new members into our ranks. However, there are also those who come here cap in hand or with malicious intent. You may find them and their descendants enjoying a form of serfdom. This practical method of integration allows us to incorporate people who lack either an autochthonic connection to the valley or the philosophical spirit necessary for full membership in our community. We help them focus on their most useful strengths. Vagrant college graduates and professors might spend their days copying and translating texts that we provide them, while the learned farmers can plow the fields and keep a share of the harvest for their own use. Among those people who enjoy our guidance, many aspire to full membership in our community. Given their close proximity to the adherents at the temple, it is unsurprising that they should often wish to take up philosophy and help us produce great works. We regularly identify promising individuals and consider allowing them to join us. Similarly, there are guests who are so touched by the experience that they express a desire to convert and join our philosophical project. Should you be gripped by such a desire, please let it be known. During your visit, you will hear a lot about our philosophy and the projects we are working on. Simply put, we understand that there is, full stop. Reality is a perfectly complete whole, termed being. You may also hear it referred to as the one, the whole, the flood, or even nothing. The choice between these titles and others depends on the speaker and their immediate emphasis. Ultimately, we are putting forward the broadest possible account of reality, a truly omnipresent account. There only is what there is. The practice of philosophy begins with the acknowledgement that we are necessarily discussing what is. We can then consider the necessary inferences. For example, given that there only is what is, then what is solitary. Further, what is unchanging, for there is no other thing for it to become. By honoring necessity, we can chart out the universal nature of what is. Only by strict adherence to this practice can we hope to successfully engage in philosophy. During your visit, you might also wish to discuss particular details of what is. Take heart, for many of us would happily join you in exploring and modeling reality. In doing so, we must always honor the nature of what is. Where one's words fall short of this, so they fail to communicate anything meaningful. When considering our self-evident existence and our rich array of experiences, we understand that all of it is subsumed by the greater whole and must therefore comply with that context. There is only one path that may be walked, is. So long as a person accepts that being is perfectly complete, and they honor this in their philosophical efforts, they may be said to walk that path with us. We don't require that our adherents, let alone outsiders, agree on all the fine details. Rather, most of us appreciate all too well the limitations that come with being a human and having a particular perspective. It is blessing enough that we can know the perfect and complete nature of being with absolute certainty. This broad wisdom fills us with confidence and the ability to persevere through any success or failure. We need not mourn the past, for it remains safe and secure where it is. As for what one might term the future, we can accept both our successes and our failures, for both are present in complete measure in the fullness of time. An ode reads, "In fear and trembling, as if approaching a deep abyss, as if walking on thin ice. We both respect and go beyond such concerns." Locations. Grand Hall. One of the largest and oldest rooms at the temple. When the hall is not being used for formal gatherings or events, adherents like to gather here and practice their oratory. The Grand Hall connects to our public dining area and our main exhibits. Main exhibits. An early expansion to the Grand Hall. This area features a number of curated exhibits that present the details of our philosophical findings. There is also a public screening room for video presentations, and private offices where our members work on various projects. Canteen. Adherents and visitors alike are welcome to dine at our new canteen. Many of the ingredients are produced on site, and the meals are offered free of charge. Conversation is also free and encouraged. The canteen opens out onto an area we call the Grove, where many adherents and others mingle to enjoy nature and conversation. Grove. A popular spot to visit after dining at the canteen. The Grove is frequently used to host outdoor gatherings and debates. This popular area continues to develop and now consists of a large meadow, exercise area, and several small groves and gathering spots. Several hiking trails lead away from the Grove and into the surrounding mountains. Heroa. A place to gather and pay respects to the heroes of philosophy, as well as people of note more generally. The surrounding gardens and interior galleries feature many memorials and shrines to past thinkers, a popular site for rituals and other spiritual practices. Guest house. All respectable guests are welcome to spend the night at our on-site hotel. We also offer private cabins in the surrounding forest. Meeting rooms and other facilities may be reserved for conferences and other special events, such as public debates. A restaurant and bar is also open to all guests. After reading the pamphlet carefully, you fold it back up and put it away. As you do so, you notice a map on the back cover, entitled Table of Contents. You can always take it out again should the need arise. Return whence you came. That is the end of the welcome guide, so we will return to the story. We were previously faced with two options. Option 1, inquire about the welcome guide. Option 2, enter the temple doors. We will enter the temple doors. Boundary of coherence. The entrance opens to reveal a short colonnade lined with red pillars and a low, ornate fence. You walk across to another set of double doors, appreciating the gardens and stone-lined ponds that surround the path on either side. You feel at once like you are both indoors and outdoors, a place in nature that is also ordered by human hands. Opening the second set of doors, you step over the sill and enter a large room with a vaulted ceiling. Other than the light that flows in behind you, the room is completely dark. As your eyes adjust, you start to make out a solitary figure standing in the center. The man does not acknowledge your arrival. He appears to be preparing to give some sort of performance. When the man begins loudly reciting a monologue, you decide to lean against the wall and quietly listen. I am talking about what is, for what else is there to talk about? I cannot reference anything that is not, for it would necessarily bear some significance, and thus constitute something that is. If the thing I point to has no significance, how can I be said to have pointed at it? How can I even say it, for that affirms it as present, singular, and perceived? Even if I fall silent, I am here. My awareness is defined by being. The flood of existence swallows me whole. What is omnipresent and inescapable. Everything I know invariably falls within the breadth of being. I cannot claim otherwise, for by definition I cannot identify any alternative to being. The claim that something is independent from being, or beyond being, such words are just incoherent strings. They cannot point away from what is. This omnipresent ontology necessarily consumes all facets of my experience. I cannot tear myself away from the complete, inescapable, and all-subsuming whole. We talk about what is, for that is all there is to talk about. I cannot compromise. I cannot offer an alternative. There is but one path of truth, and you shall walk it by my side or see your words reduced to gibberish. I've heard it said that if one stands on a different planet, they could use a lever to shift this one. Yet, there is no location beyond being where one might retreat, no externality one might leverage to influence or alter what is. The dominance of being is so complete that any supposed whisper of independence is immediately exposed as incoherent nonsense. There is no alternative to being, no way out of this all-subsuming context of existence. I must therefore reject the suggestion that things might be more or less real, for there is no alternative substance that might be introduced to dilute the purity of what is, nor burnt off to concentrate it. Wherever you point, there it is, pure and untainted. Being is well poured and constitutes absolutely all meaning. Whatever is possible is most assuredly necessary. For if something can be, then it must be. For there is only one path where we saw it, that it is. That path, being, is the omnipresent and perfect whole. Where did being come from? Where will it go? Such questions are absurd. Every conceivable location, every conceivable arrangement, these are all within its breadth. What was it, and what will it become? These questions similarly devolve into incoherence. If I say that what is will become something else, I am referencing the something else as though it were separate from what is. Yet there is no alternative to being, no external something else that might be sought beyond the is. The flood of existence swallows any notion of an alternative. Further, what would become of what was? For the initial arrangement or state of what is had significance, and we have no other place where we might hide it. All significance is necessarily preserved by the inviolable nature of being. Any proposed chronology of events must exist in a complete state. Any moment is as real and inviolable as any other. The ball at the top of a hill and the ball at the bottom of a hill are two distinct arrangements, and we might chart out the path between them. Yet to create or destroy arrangements is no less incoherent than to create or destroy any other modicum of significance. The permanent ball is permanently smeared across the entire surface of the permanent hill. The chronology is complete and secure. I must confess that change is limited and relative, fastened in place by chains of necessity. Any talk of time and change is merely descriptive of something that always is what it is. I am subsumed by being, am I not? So my existence is permanent and secure. I will live forever. I cannot be destroyed. There is no alternative. I am invincible. No force can shift me from my place. Strike me down. I am still there. I remain where you saw me. You, my aggressor, you are still there, chained by my side. Stop struggling. Even the gods cannot fight against necessity. You are distracted from the monologue by the sound of a door creaking open. Light begins to flood into the room from the far end, and you can make out a figure standing there. This new person signals for you to approach. He then begins to speak. Come, let me show you something more specific. As interesting as you might find my brother, he has a one-track mind. He sees what is and is fascinated by its nature, but has hardly begun to chart its complex constitution. If you want to know its richness of detail, just follow me. Our main exhibits are open to the public, and I'd be happy to give you a guided tour. As you ponder his words, you notice another corridor leading out of the room. A barely illuminated sign reads, Canteen. Thoughts of lamb soup force their way into your mind. Option 1. Accompany the man. Option 2. Object and express concerns. Option 3. Decline and go in search of food. We'll go with option 2. Object and express concerns. Remonstration on being. Before accompanying the second individual, you decide to raise some concerns about the monologue. Obviously, non-existent things can be talked about. You do it all the time. Further, does anyone here have a quick and clear definition of being? What is it the presence or meaning of exactly? If being is one thing, it's hardly clear how it can explain the multitude of things that surround you. Not to mention, how are we supposed to accept the denial of change? If this philosophy is going to sway you, then the adherents better offer an explanation of why you are caught up in a world full of change. Why should you consider your experiences to be illusions or errors, given that they constitute everything familiar to you? The initial speaker shrugs his shoulders, while the second individual just frowns at you. After a brief silence, the second individual inhales deeply and then dives into a more spirited response. He scoffs and waves his arms around, explaining that all your questions admit of obvious answers. When someone says that a thing is literally non-existent or beyond being, you can be certain that they are deeply confused. Same with those who claim that particular things are more or less real, as though there was some sort of existential gradation. Everything is equally and absolutely real in the sense that it is, that it has its affirmative presence as what it is. That all-embracing sense of is captures you and everything you will ever perceive. This well-rounded and inescapable truth must be honored if our words are to communicate anything truly meaningful. Let's also avoid the error of positing a pure thought and then saying that it is of nothing. One might carelessly say that they are thinking of nothing if they define thought as a process or experience that lacks a subject. for then they would just be affirming thought and not attempting to go a step further. Discussing thought in its own right, however, is distinct from affirming that there is a nothing, the forbidden that which is not, and then claiming that thought has grasped it as a subject. It is the latter characterization that involves the contradiction at issue. The man pauses for a moment and composes himself, before resuming. I have described existence as covering everything that might be referenced or perceived. One must therefore consider being as extending beyond all limitation or opposition. We may speak of the hot, we may oppose it to the cold, but we must acknowledge that both sides of that dichotomy are subsumed within the breadth of being. They both exist, for they are both there for us to talk about in common, despite their supposed exclusivity. Therefore, those who set up these limited categories of existing and not existing miss the point. When my brother delivered his performance, he was speaking of the broad, all-encompassing context. The blinkered metaphysicians hone in on limited categories and thereby quietly change the scope of the discussion. Therefore, they invariably fail to recognize the enormous ramifications my brother revealed in his speech. Those who do their best to avoid acknowledging the extent of being suffer from a self-imposed metaphysical blindness and will never say anything of great value. As for this talk of giving a clear definition, what is not clear? It is what is, and everything is what it is. Knowing that much, my brother explored the necessary inferences. In the exhibits, we consider the richness of detail and attempt to give a specific and thoroughgoing account of reality, wherein every particular detail is understood as consistent with what has already been said regarding the nature of being. We have first-hand knowledge of those details, and we understand that whatever we are aware of is, for it could hardly be that which is not. As for whether my brother is saying that being is one thing, that's not unfair. It is the only thing. All that is said is of it. We are in this inescapable and all-subsuming context, being. Further, I do agree that there is only one meaning, one absolute and all-encompassing truth, being, the whole of isness. No alternative, no escape, no excuses, just the undeniable truth, that it is and it needs must be. Whatever particular category or detail we fixate on, it will fall short of the whole truth. No doubt you will therefore be able to find some fault with my exhibits, should you accompany me. But I've not addressed all your concerns. Change is a tricky topic. I suspect that if people carefully consider the term in light of what has been said here about being, they will be struck by some startling and irrefutable revelations. At any rate, I know that whatever we experience must have genuine existence, because there only is, without alternative or gradation of realness. The challenge is how to understand and tie together our experiences given the context of an all-subsuming is. Those who refuse to engage in that project fall victim to mystical nonsense about becoming, and ultimately their words fall apart and their teachings must be discarded. It is inaccurate to say that philosophy will require you to abandon your experiences. We would say that your experiences are complete and inviolable, like everything else about reality. Your experience of change is something relative, like the difference between scenes in a recorded movie. The important thing is that each scene is secure in its existence. You might wake up feeling refreshed, have a nice brunch, work during the day, and then go home and enjoy yourself before bedtime. I will agree that you have those experiences, and they are absolutely real. Only, I won't pretend that there is some sort of process whereby the earlier parts of your story perish and subsequent ones are generated. Similarly, there is no privileged moment that you can seize and enjoy to the exclusion of all others. All of those moments are you. They are your soul or some expression of your nature. You occupy a region of an eternal and inviolable chronology. It feels the way it feels because you are what you are. I would never have you deny what you are. I only expect your account of yourself to be coherent. Ultimately, it doesn't matter if reality pleases you. Being is a well-rounded and all-subsuming truth. By definition, it cannot be overthrown. We are left to wrestle with that truth and to colour in the picture with our words and models. So long as we focus on that task, we'll be productive. Meanwhile, the outsiders who fail to honour the metaphysical context can only churn out confused nonsense. So with that cleared up, would you like to accompany me to review the main exhibits? Or are you still in denial about the absolute, omnipresent, and undeniable context of reality? Before you can respond, you are interrupted by the laughter of the original speaker. It seems he has been listening with great amusement. He offers his own thoughts, coupling them with a grin. Look at you two, tying yourselves in knots. Being is what fills our eyes and ears. It's common to us and we belong to it. I'm satisfied because I've established that there is a context for all we can discuss. You aren't going to carve out a limited vision of being and exclude the other side. Whatever your disagreements, being accommodates them all. Your real struggle is to recognize that, to the extent either one of you have anything to say, you are both on the same page. That is why harmony is the paramount concern of morality. We should all hope to express our full nature together, with all perspectives having their rightful place. That perfect harmony where the great image shines forth, and the great sound comes about. This temple is the proper home of philosophy, a place where all can take care to respect the full nature of being. If you must wrestle with something, then let me suggest that people often fail to challenge nonsense like becoming, and as a result they are satisfied by insufficient and contradictory conclusions. I once heard a guest claim that creation is only objectionable because the new thing will come out of nothing. Then her friend responded that the new thing wasn't coming from nothing, for it could be said to come from something else. Whether they went on to posit a creator god or some primordial soup, I don't recall. But they were both blind to a greater issue. In their ignorance, they failed to realize that the new thing or state of affairs to be created was itself the nothing they sought to avoid. The supposed process of creation involves claiming that the precise thing to be created is not, or else it would already be. To the extent the term nothing must be avoided, so such processes must also be avoided, for the same failure is written on their face. It was observed long ago that what can be discussed in words are the coarser aspects of things. What can be considered in the mind are the minute aspects of things. But what words cannot describe and thought cannot reach cannot be determined as either minute or coarse. Therefore, even though you will witness many attempts to describe the particular details of being and how they relate together, the accounts will always fall short of the truth. Even when repaired, still they will fall short. My speech on being is there to ensure that you will always recognize the deficiency. It was also written long ago that a fox knows many things, but a hedgehog knows one big thing. Foxes will build endless models, and now you know the one absolute and unquestionable way to put an end to it all. I understand that beyond this temple and valley, people live in ignorance of the omnipresence of being. Therefore, it is only here that philosophy can hope to thrive. Elsewhere, the professed experiences are incomplete and the teachings worthless. My brother is not wrong in this. I only ask that you not be too offended by the words you hear. After all, Elea is also the home of heuristics. With that said, you have a decision to make. If you two want to explore the specifics and play with your models, please take it to the next room. If you haven't eaten yet, it would be best for you to go to the canteen first. Being is full, so it is unseemly to examine it on an empty stomach. Personally, I don't care where you go, only you have to go, otherwise I'll never learn my lines. You briefly consider continuing the argument, but think better of it. Your options at this point consist of a promised tour of the exhibits or a free meal at the public canteen. Option 1. Accompany the man to the exhibits. Option 2. Leave to go in search of food. We'll take option 2. Lamb soup in. You excuse yourself and proceed down the corridor towards the canteen. As you get nearer, you hear the chaotic sounds of people eating and chatting. You also detect the scent of food, causing your belly to rumble and your feet to pick up the pace. The canteen is still partially under construction. It currently consists of a serving area and several tables and benches. A long sliding panel opens out to a large meadow and forested grove. Several groups of people are gathered outside and appear to be enjoying the fresh air. You queue up and grab a bowl of lamb soup, pour yourself a cup of tea, and find a seat. A nearby diner noisily slurps down the last of his meal before introducing himself to you. You look hungry. Eat up. This stuff will hit the spot. The ingredients are all fresh from this morning. We grow and raise it all near my village. Most of us come here each day to help with the construction and expansion of the temple. It's hard work, but at least we get to enjoy some decent food, right? The adherents are certainly thankful to have us around. It's not like any of them know how to cook this well. I assume the bloke in the main hall tired you out, right? He has a way of doing that to people, droning on about how literally everything exists. Then, when you decide to push back, his friend comes in from the exhibit room and starts giving you a hard time. Honestly, if the all-is-one bloke wants to express the omnipresence of existence, you should just stop talking. Omnipresence overflows all boundaries and distinctions. If he keeps trying to describe existence in particular terms, he will invariably stray from the truth, for in describing it one way, he cuts some other way out of the picture. If we wish to talk about everything, we ought to be silent. Don't you agree? The man grabs a nearby teapot to refill your cup. As he pours, you notice a white jade bracelet on his wrist. It is engraved with the image of a woman surrounded by wild animals. You tap your fingers politely on the table, whereupon the man places the teapot back down. As you open your mouth to respond to his question, you are interrupted by the drunken ramblings of a man several rows over. He is loudly giving an impromptu lecture to some of his friends. Option 1. Politely excuse yourself and visit the grove. Option 2. Agree and ask about the specific details. Option 3. Nod politely and move to the drunken crowd. Let's stay and chat. We'll ask about the specific details. Talking about something. Happy to escape the talk of everything, you decide to ask the man how we can best talk about specific things. You continue eating as he eagerly starts up again. Describing something is a bit like whittling wood, I reckon. You should see some of the handicrafts my people make. Such beautiful craftsmanship. Actually, there's an annual valley fair where all the villagers display their finest works of art. If only you had come at that time, you'd see what I'm talking about. Anyway, don't let me get off track. I've been thinking about this topic a lot because I plan to become an adherent soon. Here is the secret to speaking about specific things. You have to distinguish your meaning from all that surrounds it. You carve away at the substance until all that remains is the image you wish to present. By carving along the distinctions, we escape talking about the whole of existence. Yet, the thing that we are left with also constitutes a unity of its own. It is what it is as it is, itself expressing the nature of what is. The act of communicating a description is rather unimpressive, no? the description will never be the thing itself. Similarly, an image in wood is not actually the thing that is depicted. We may present things in words, numbers, or in some other manner, but it never constitutes the genuine article. Regardless of how well we perform, we'll always be missing the mark. I suspect in large part the only reason we can even understand each other to the extent that we do is because we all share common experiences and a common nature. The descriptions are utterly worthless, unless they are received by someone who has a general idea of what's going on. At some point the words and models must be discarded, for we never intended to pass jumbles of letters between us. They all point to something. When we have that thing firmly in our grasp, the descriptions may retire, their purpose served. Which means there is another party in this dialogue. You, me, and the thing itself. The latter is the star of the show. You and I are just straining to see it on the stage. This star of the show feeds back into our original topic in another way. Prior to perceiving some particular thing, we don't know about it. Yet, it must still have some ontological presence. The adherents are very strict about this. So it was outside of us, waiting for us to sit here and discover it. This is another way to assure ourselves that there is a world outside our immediate mind, I suppose. Maybe we are all like that, things existing in their own right and available for others to discover. Maybe a bird will look down and spot us for the first time. Perhaps there's even some other worldly creature right next to us. Positioned at an angle we cannot readily perceive, it might poke its fingers through into our region of reality at any moment. You sit there quietly with the man for a few moments, but the extra-dimensional entities do not reveal themselves to you. You both chuckle nervously, and the man resumes his musings as you finish up your meal. Or perhaps there are no other angles, no other creatures, except in our imagination. For they must be somewhere if we're talking about them, right? For my part, I know that anything coherent exists, and I believe that the things in my imagination also exist everywhere else so long as they comply with the nature of those other places. All the things I dream about will make their presence known in the fullness of time. I was planning to have a drink outside with some of the others from my village. Would you care to join us in the grove? It's a short day for us, given that all the adherents are focused on tomorrow's festivities. Option 1. Thank the man, but visit the grove alone. Option 2. Go share a drink with the villagers. Let's not drink anything. Let's thank the man, but visit the grove alone. Grove. You step out onto a stone patio, where you are greeted by a cloudy blue sky and broad meadow. It's not quite what you would call a grove, although it is surrounded on several sides by forests, and there are some dense clusters of trees spread throughout. The air is clear enough for you to make out the mountains in the distance, the rocky outcroppings collared by dense rings of pine. You also spot several small settlements in the distance. Gatherings of people are scattered throughout the immediate area. Some groups are just sitting down for a picnic, but you also see large crowds mingling and watching performances. One group in particular catches your eye. It has separated into opposing camps, and you can see two speakers engaging in some sort of oral debate. There are quiet spots for those who desire privacy, too. A few great trees stand alone, providing an ideal shaded spot for a nap, perfect for someone who has just enjoyed a full meal at the canteen, or a few drinks and interesting conversation with friends. Furthest away, close by the tree line, you see people working out and sparring at an outdoor gymnasium. The available equipment is simple but sufficient. Weights of varying sizes and hanging bars, and a long grassy track for those eager to get in their cardio. A colonnade and small building provide shade for resting athletes. Option 1. Go listen to the speakers debate some issue. Option 2. Do some pull-ups at the gymnasium. Option 3. Find a quiet spot and digest your meal in peace. Option 4. Re-enter the temple and visit the main exhibits. Let's go do some pull-ups at the gymnasium. I will note that if we re-enter the temple and visit the main exhibits, it will actually be a different experience than if we had just gone directly to the main exhibits. Repetitions. You make your way to the gymnasium, politely nodding towards a few people who glance over. The pull-up bars immediately catch your eye, and not too far from there is a large container of water and some glasses laid out for public use. You grab a glass and take a refreshing sip, then place it back down and perform some basic warm-ups. Mentally and physically prepared, you finally head over to the bars to see how many pull-ups you can achieve in one go. Standing under the bar, you raise your hands up and grip it, palms outward and your hands somewhat wider apart than your shoulders. You tighten your grip and swing your legs up, under you. With all your weight hanging on the bar, you pull yourself up until your chin is over it. Pause, then lower yourself. It's a simple but grueling exercise. You repeat however many times you can without placing your feet back on the ground, then take a break before the next set of repetitions. While your arms recover, you move over to the colonnade and enjoy the shade. A small spread of figs and other food is available on the table, and some of the other gym goers nod in greeting as you look around. A few people are chatting not far from the table, close enough for you to follow along. I didn't say that everyone needs to join the army or some mercenary force if they want to be a respectable adult. Not at all. And I do agree that there is something foolish about signing up to someone else's war. Why fight for something you don't believe in, or for some institution or people that have no love or loyalty towards you? At the same time, I hope you can appreciate the need for standards. It's not unreasonable to expect people to have some baseline ability to tackle and overcome challenging situations. If someone wants to play a meaningful role in society, they should bring something to the table. Yes, I agree that we all need to keep in shape. How can you really expect people to listen to you if you cannot function at a basic physical level? Falling short of that standard represents a sort of abdication. Maybe that's why they call it letting yourself go. As a person, you have a body. You need to live up to that and keep it in decent shape, both to be what you are and to be capable of what may be needed of you. Right, and my mention of the military was not an endorsement of some conflict or institution. I just meant it as both an example of fitness standards and an example of being willing and able to defend yourself with or without technology. Why renounce any of that and be an obese slob or harmless cattle? Or even worse, a combination of the two. Yeah, some middle ground that we can agree is reasonable and should be expected of each generation. Everyone should be taught basic exercises and sports, and if they can't maintain a somewhat healthy and able physique throughout their life, then they ought to incur some shame or penalty. Absent a real excuse, of course, such as debilitating injury or disease. Absent such an excuse, of course. But the point is, some national or local standards that are enforced by the carrot and stick would be fair. Pass a yearly exam, pay lower tribute to the governing body. Opt out, pay the full amount. Become a slovenly mess and do no exercise at all, degenerating to the point where you cannot even jog a lap around this park? Then what? I suppose less access to social welfare may be in order, assuming we still have that in our ideal society. I like where you're going, but I'm not willing to do away with the dole entirely. Actually, I think there's a sort of social welfare that we all have to engage in. If we see someone failing at life, should we mock him or inspire him to do well? I think the ideal citizen will be inclined towards the latter, all else being equal. We want the fat people in the gym, not in the hospital. We want the citizen body unified and happy. If you see a person who has never done a pull-up before, maybe because he had no parents around to show him, then be positive and inspire him to try it out. Go for a jog with him, play some badminton, do something positive, or admit that they aren't really your fellow citizens in any heartfelt sense. Feeling refreshed, you head back towards the pull-up bar for another set. It seems this is a philosopher's gymnasium, with people exercising both their mind and body throughout the day. After the pull-ups, you run a couple of laps and then return to the well for another glass of water. Some other people approach and give you a nod, striking up conversation. Is this your first time here? Of course it is. Welcome. It's good to see a fresh face. I've been coming to this spot for years now. We used to just gather here for aerobic exercises and the occasional athletic event. We set up the changing rooms and showers, the colonnade, and got some equipment together. It's a great community. There's something special about it all when you're directly participating and know everyone personally. Why watch strangers play ball on the other side of the planet when you can barrack for your kids and play with your neighbors? A dance in the barn is worth 10 in the hall, as they say. Experiences are much richer when they're closer to the heart. These days we even have some clubs that focus on breathing and stretching exercises, as well as dietary nutrition and supplements. A sort of internal and external alchemy that can take things to another level. I don't know your thoughts on the matter, but we don't want to just leave the research on the table. If reliable studies show that some mushroom or herb will improve exercise results, or that some special breathing exercise has a positive impact on our thought process and quality of life, then I'm all for it. Let's give it a go. Anyway, enjoy your day. I recommend checking out the Heroa. It's not far from here, just down the trail. You could also check out the hiking trails, although I see you already went for a jog. Still, better to go during the day if you can. The forests aren't always safe at night. Then again, you should be fine if you're a good runner. The group laughs and heads over to the weights, bidding you farewell. You put down your glass and ponder your next move. You could head directly to the Heroa, or you could take a nice detour through the woods and see if you can't make your way up one of the nearby mountains. Then again, it might be nice to visit the guest house to recuperate after your workout. Option 1. Head down the trail to the Heroa. Option 2. Hike up the mountains. Option 3. Visit the guest house. Let's go check out the Heroa. Field of Heroes. You follow a narrow trail as it winds its way between the trees, eventually taking you to an open, grassy plain. Small stone structures are spread throughout the area. They appear to be a mix of shrines and statues. You can see groups of people gathering around them. Some are simply admiring the artwork, while others are performing rituals or engaging in conversation. In the middle of the plain is a stone plateau with a large walled structure, but the door is closed and you do not see anyone nearby. As you wander around, a particular group of people catches your eye. You immediately recognize two of them as the individuals who greeted you at the entrance to the temple. They appear to be serving as tour guides, leading people around the plain. They catch sight of you and give a wave, calling out for you to join them. Hello there. Fancy meeting you here. Would you care to join us? The day is almost at an end, but there's still time for you to tour the Heroa with us. The main shrine is closed, of course, but only because we're preparing it for tomorrow's festivities. That is a surprise, though, so the less said of it, the better. It's interesting you should appear at this moment. We're at a fork in the road and our little group will be separated. You're welcome to join us, but where will you cast your lot? One group shall make its way through the grounds, while the other will have to overcome some philosophical hurdles. Or maybe I'll lose you if I talk like that. These guests came to tour the grounds, but some of them have been grimacing at every statue and sighing after every description. Nothing we do seems to please them. We have some fundamental conflict that needs to be addressed before they can see the beauty of this site. We are always eager to consult with each other about the truth, and now it seems we must do so with our new friends. A direct conversation can be worth a lifetime of lectures and tours. I suspect that sort of dialectic is what some of these guests really need. So we have decided to split the group. Some will continue to tour the various shrines here, while some of us will confront our differences head-on. But if you must rest more than just your feet, I can also point you in the direction of the guest house. It's been some time since you arrived. Perhaps you need to sleep on the ideas that you've encountered. Then again, maybe you arrived with your own set of ideas, and you've decided you shouldn't budge. Being doesn't change, so how can any of us, right? You nod towards the other members of the group, and then make your decision. Option 1. Accompany the group as they tour the area. Option 2. Remain as they confront their differences. Option 3. Quietly explore the area alone. Option 4. Call it a day and retire to the guest house. Let's take option 1 and go with the group that is going to continue the tour of the area. Friends old and new. You decide to follow the rest of the tour, leaving the disputants to work out their philosophical difference. The atmosphere during the remainder of the tour is cheerful. The guide happily shares information about the various sculptures and describes certain rituals and activities that people like to perform in the area. Although the hour is late, it is still light enough to read various inscriptions and appreciate the artwork. This is one of my favorite parts of living here, really. There are so many monuments reminding us of great moments and figures in history. It's all very inspiring. Of course, we love to argue about philosophy, but learning about history and considering its many examples is its own sort of pleasure. There's a lot of value and beauty in history. It can be a great source of inspiration. How do you select the figures to commemorate here? We have a regular body that gathers to review proposals. Adherents are free to nominate those they think worthy. There are some general rules that guide their decisions. For example, we don't put up statues of current members or leaders in our community. Although, if a group has recently achieved something great, we might erect a stele and inscribe their names on it as a sort of dedication. Are there stoneworkers in your community, or do you have outsiders perform the work? There are some artistic sorts here. The temple grounds are quite extensive and support a large number of adherents. There are also a number of communities that dwell around us. Those communities generally accept our guidance in all issues of great import, and they share our cultural and philosophical beliefs. We tend to use them for most projects, unless an adherent has a particular interest in it. To your earlier question, we sometimes produce memorials for lesser-known figures that impress us, or have provided us with some valuable gift. Did you know there is a little memorial to Polybus here, a pupil and son-in-law of the famous Hippocrates? Believe it or not, he is possibly the author of the oldest extant text that names an Eleatic sage. Not only that, but it is Melissus whom he names. Fancy that? Although some say it was Hippocrates or some other fellow who wrote that particular work. All the same, an interesting figure, and we are all the richer for his presence here. One of the visitors speaks up, pointing at a bronze plaque. It is affixed to a large stone statue of a goddess. She appears to be looking directly at you, with her hand extended as if to take your own. Why does this one read Parmenides? I thought he was a man like you and me. Shouldn't he look like the statues of Melissus and Zeno? Yes, we also think of him as a man. In fact, he has a statue here, just like those two you named. But in this work, I suppose the artist is recognizing the speaker, the goddess, as a true philosopher. For it was the goddess who revealed the timeless metaphysical teachings to the youth. Do you assign those teachings to the goddess? What are we to make of Parmenides, then? You may still conclude that Parmenides was a great man, worthy of divine favor. It's not as though the goddess sent a chariot to fetch you or me. Was it Parmenides that embarked on the chariot ride, or an unnamed youth? Well, I think you are more familiar with the text than you let on. It is true that Parmenides does not spell out his own name in the work, at least not in the fragments we possess. However, unless you have some theory about how he came to put someone else's account in writing, I'm happy enough to say that the youth is supposed to be Parmenides. If you're still unsatisfied, then give me your position. Are you saying that the youth, a great soul worthy of divine favor, decided that Parmenides, no doubt also a worthy man, should record the experience instead of him? What are you really getting at? It's true, I'm toying with you a little, but it is in good faith. I'm curious why you entertain the idea that Parmenides actually received a divine revelation from a goddess. Isn't it more likely that he wrote a fancy poem simply to communicate his own discoveries in a more beautiful and enigmatic fashion? Well, you're making your own assumptions here. For my part, I don't see why it's impossible that a character known as the goddess communicated with Parmenides and revealed teachings to him. I'm quite happy to believe there are extra-dimensional entities out there, for all the good it does me. Do you have a particular objection to it being a divine revelation? It seems particularly worthy of being called such. Why do you think it's particularly worthy? Well, first we need to establish some method of identifying a genuine revelation received from a knowledgeable, non-human entity. Maybe we can start with an analogy where we cast ourselves as gods. Imagine giving a revelation to seagulls, for example. Seagulls? Yeah, I think it might be a workable analogy. We must seem like gods to them. We live in enormous houses far away from them. We shape their environments with roads and piers. We bless them with chips and battered fish. It must look like we work miracles or have magical powers. So just grant me one more thing. Imagine that we can speak to the seagulls. Let me describe something like radio waves to them. That would be a sort of divine revelation, no? How is that divine? Well, in the analogy, we are the gods, in the sense that we are naturally more capable and knowledgeable than their species. The knowledge of radio waves constitutes a revelation because seagulls have no clue about them. Indeed, I doubt they will ever grasp such things without our assistance. Or do you think that seagulls might independently identify radio waves and then use them to transmit their squawks across the planet? No. Exactly. Yet radio waves are real and the squawks can be transmitted. So here we are, these powerful entities, providing information to the lesser creatures. We are telling them about the things that are hidden away somewhere they would never think to look. Then, when they consider our words, they discover that we have spoken the truth. Now, should the seagulls say we are just like them, and ascribe the discovery of radio waves to the bird that heard the word? I would say no. The glory goes to the godly race of man. I would also believe the seagulls who tell me about the true source of their knowledge, because the discovery goes beyond anything we saw in contemporary seagull society. Further, what motivation was there for the teaching, beyond divine benevolence? The seagulls just received this unexpected teaching. It turns out to be true, and there's no obvious reason the gods might lie about it. Also, no strong reason for the seagull to lie about it. It's pure revelation devoid of obvious self-interest, dishonesty, or other forms of corruption. Very well, but how does this analogy relate to the goddess? Why is her message particularly worthy of being recognized as a divine revelation? Easy. The goddess is a member of that divine race, and now we are the seagulls. We are taken from our mundane world of ignorance and brought to see her. Where is she? In a special place we would find inaccessible, beyond that point where the night meets the day. It is there that we are given an account of reality. It is an account of which we were previously unaware, and in our contemporary philosophical projects we had not yet appreciated. Is that all? No. In addition to having the youth brought through a portal and revealing the broadest truth to him, she also reviewed the teachings that were popular in his day and identified the missteps. That way, when the youth returned to the mundane world, he was able to share the truth with the rest of us seagulls and respond effectively to our objections. I think I've heard something like this before. Yes, but this is an older tale that inspired that work. If you say so. I do, and I am right in doing so, but allow me to finish. The goddess put forward the reasons that support what she said, giving us the broadest account of reality and a roadmap that helps us understand and accept it. In doing so, she explicitly provided her reasoning, displaying not just great mental power and knowledge, but also selfless honesty. In fact, think of how special it is that she gave a philosophical account of her message. Do other alleged gods do that? Or do they instead trade on their name and alleged importance? Her explicit reasoning revealed the marks of truth. Those signs were originally hard for us to see without her assistance, but she so clearly revealed the truth and educated us that we can now appreciate the signs ourselves. She did not need to trade on her good name to gain our faith, and she doesn't need generations of priests to carry water for her. She chose honesty and reason, and by virtue of this approach, her revelation is apparent and self-standing. Even those who don't wish to believe still keep her words in mind thousands of years later. So what sort of god is she if she's so unique and special? She is a philosopher's god. She doesn't say, "Accept my words for what I am," but rather, "This is the truth. Here are the marks of reason by which you may know it." What was her interest in this? I won't pretend to read her mind, but she has given us a blessing. She did not indulge her ego by pretending to be the one true God, commanding us to worship her above all, nor did she try to secure for herself some special metaphysical status beyond being. She did not benefit from the revelation in any obvious way that would cause us to suspect dishonesty. Her words are the most pure-hearted and genuine of all that men call revelation. If you wanted to hear the divine speak, this is it. Now I think it is you who is playing with me, although I confess there's truth in your words. The goddess that spoke to Parmenides did not need anything from us, yet she still had such good will that she was willing to share the truth and help guide us in philosophy. Exactly. There are also other signs by which we can detect her good will. She did not demand obedience under threat of eternal damnation. She did not bribe our faith with an endless paradise. In fact, she cast those hollow tales aside when she revealed the metaphysical truth of reality. If there is a God that is a true friend to humanity, she is such a one. I can appreciate why you honor her with these beautiful works. Yes, and we also honor those who grasped her knowledge and followed it. Whatever one makes of the goddess, her words are more laudable than the false teachings that are popular in religions today. But we're not here to talk of deceptive, self-interested words of lesser entities. The wisdom of the goddess has freed us from such unfortunate stories. The guest smiles and nods his head thoughtfully, and the rest of the group begins to talk among themselves. They are clearly moved by the piety of the guide. For his part, the guide turns to you and speaks. I'm glad you're still here. I hope that you can perceive the truth in what I have said. If not, I still hope that it inures you against the false claims of other religious movements. For by reason and necessity, the goddess employed something prior to and more secure than faith. One might have faith in an entity or text that appears to be wise or inspired, but that initial judgment may be cut down at any time in accordance with reason. Faith is ever vulnerable, and when it inevitably collapses, all that flows from it is lost and cannot be relied upon. Therefore, the goddess gave us something broader and more secure than what is offered by lesser scripture. At any rate, I recommend that you make your way to the guest house. I must finish up this tour and take the group to their private cabins, so I can't accompany you, but let me give you directions. You could, of course, continue to explore the grounds, but I must advise against it. The area is not safe at night, so close to tomorrow's festivities. If you must, wander as you will, but stay away from dense forests. Option 1. Make your way to the guest house. Option 2. Strike out on the hiking trail. Let's go on the hiking trail. An evening hike. After spending much of the day in conversation, you decide to be alone with your thoughts. It is late and the sun has already departed from the heavens, but the weather is still pleasant. As you begin your hike, you realize that the temple grounds are a lot more expansive than you anticipated. In the dark, it is not long before you find yourself seemingly lost in the wilderness. Fishing out the welcome guide, you check the map and try to get your bearings. It is hopeless. Although the moonlight allows you to make out some of the details of the map, you're surrounded by trees and unable to spot any obvious landmarks. With a sigh, you put the map away and follow a nearby dirt trail that weaves its way between the numerous trees. Occasionally, the canopy opens up enough for you to catch sight of the mountains on either side of the forest, and the continuous trickling of a nearby stream keeps you company. You stop in your tracks upon the sudden and unexpected sound of a branch breaking. You certainly didn't step on anything that could cause such a disturbance. When some nearby bushes start to rustle, you immediately break into a run, looking in all directions to see if you can spot your new companion. Unfortunately, the only thing that greets you is a thick tree root. It catches your foot, sending you tumbling down a small hill. You eventually splash into the stream. Your arms and legs are now soaking wet and sore, but otherwise you are still in one piece. As you stand, an unusual voice surrounds you. "Oi, are you blind? Most animals are polite enough to hop across without disturbing me, or crouch on my banks while taking a drink. How is it that you, a featherless biped, would dare to act so recklessly around a great river like me? I suppose you had no choice. I can feel the goosebumps on your skin, the scent of fear in your sweat. Must be terrifying to be you, a pathetic creature of meat and bone, panting and sweating, if I may borrow the phrase. Why didn't you spend the night in some cozy inn like the other hairless apes?" "Well, cheer up. The leopard that stalked you has gone in search of other prey. It knows better than to disturb me. You, however, I think I'll introduce you to the leopard's master, an even greater being than myself, as much as it pains me to admit. How to describe her? Think of it as entirely different categories of life. You are a tiny little body, an awareness fixed in some location, snuffed out the moment you're broken apart. Then there's me. I stretch from one end of the valley to the other. My feeling consists of every droplet in the stream and the surrounding area. My movement is a harmonious and untroubled flow, naturally responding to any intruder or obstacle. Yet, although I know myself up and down, sensing every bend and ripple at once, I do not feel the same about my history and what will come to pass. Which brings us to another category. A creature whose sense of awareness is temporally perfect. I encountered one such entity when she came to drink and converse. She claimed to know all the events of the day all at once, just like I know both riverbanks. I'll let her deal with you. First, you must wade along my banks until you come to the broken pine. Then, you must clamber out of the water like a desperate little bug before making your way up into the mountains. Don't worry, there will be a trail to guide you, and your sodden appearance will tell her subjects that I sent you. Out of the frying pan and into the fire, although that element has never really appealed to my nature. With that, the voice ends. All that is left is the water lapping at your legs, ushering you downstream to a large tree that has fallen across the water. You take hold of a stout branch and pull yourself up onto the tree trunk, before shuffling along until you're clear of the stream. As promised, there is a steep trail leading up into the mountains, but perhaps it would be wiser to seek shelter elsewhere. Option 1. Proceed up the mountain. Option 2. Leave in search of civilization. Let's just leave in search of civilization. The Midnight Bushwhacker. As you trudge through the night, the trees become sparser and sparser, until you find yourself standing before a large field of unkempt grass and bushes. A rough trail can be made out. Clearly someone or something has made its way through here, beating the knee-high grass apart. You are also pleased to see some lights in the distance. It appears you are not as far away from civilization as you initially feared. Following the trail, you gradually determine that it runs almost parallel to the lights. It will eventually take you there, but it meanders around the edge of another broad, dense section of forest. A much quicker route would be to leave the path and enter the tree line, walking directly towards civilization. As you consider your options, a voice rings out in the darkness. Predator or prey? I jest. I can see you're a fish out of water. I only wonder what sort of fool would go for a stroll on the eve of the festivities. Those with a will to power have started early, tearing through the bush and indulging in their violent delights, as though the one most given to a single moment is more real and may run roughshod over the rest. Those animals think their passions will lead to a new era, But tomorrow will be their battle of the fetters, and all they'll win is a measure of land to work until they're reformed. I don't know what warning you received at the temple, but a competing school has arrived with pretensions of overtaking that which is supposedly weak and rotten. For this is the nature of the festivities, a clash of much contested accounts. The future follows those who can explain, spread, and grow their beliefs. Thankfully, that calculation rests on having worthy beliefs in the first place. We can be absolutely confident that the steadfast heart of persuasive truth is more lasting and more certain than the energetic rantings of so many German savages. I can't escort you back, for I have my own responsibilities. However, as long as you avoid unforced errors and you hide from those on the prowl, this trail will bring you safely to the guest house. Isn't that the way of life? You must keep an eye out so you don't blunder into a spiderweb or some other ambush. If there's an active hunter you can't handle, then you must make sure not to catch their eye until the odds are in your favor. Focus on the trail and keep a low profile. Tomorrow, you can tell me what you were thinking when you decided to come out here alone. With that, the voice falls silent. Despite your best efforts, you're unable to spot your interlocutor. It seems they have departed the area, or at any rate have no intention of interacting with you further. With no other obvious options, you resume your walk along the meandering path, scanning the forested area. You are able to confirm that the trees are spaced apart enough for you to enter without much difficulty. Yet you also note that the treetops shake in a disturbing manner. A less cautious mind would chalk it up to the wind. However, for all you know, there could be leopards or drop bears in the branches, patiently awaiting their next meal. Option 1. Take a shortcut through the trees. Option 2. Continue along the meandering path. Let's ignore all the advice we've been given and take a shortcut through the trees. A forested shortcut. You depart from the beaten trail and march directly into the tree line, pushing aside wayward branches and bushes. You haven't been eaten by any wild animals so far, so why should you believe that it'll happen now? Getting lost at night on some aimless trail sounds more dangerous than a quick dash through the trees towards safety. If that wasn't enough to motivate you, the thought of a warm shower and a nice long sleep at the guest house drives you on. Your decision seems to be immediately justified. The area is not so densely forested as to hold you up, and the moonlight shines through the canopy and illuminates the ground for you. Occasionally, you brush up against wild blackberry bushes. They snag and pull at your clothes, but you press on and avoid them as best as you can. The odd rock or root causes you to stumble, but you can only smile each time you look up and see the lights and buildings in the distance. They look like little wooden cabins. If you can't locate the central guest house, no doubt someone here will offer you shelter for the night. Then you can see what to make of the festivities tomorrow. A branch shakes above your head, breaking your train of thought. You hardly have time to react before a heavy weight crashes down on your back and shoulders, knocking you to your knees. You are then seized with a great pain. Something clamps down on your neck and shoulder, crushing bone and tearing a chunk of flesh out of your body. You then collapse to the ground, where you proceed to writhe about in helpless agony. Evidently, it was not only the wind that caused the trees to shake. You make a delicious meal for the unknown predator. It hardly notices your feeble attempts to struggle as it feasts on you. It seems your adventure has come to an end.